Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you all. Please, when you come on, do say hello. Let me know your name. Let me know where you're joining me from. And just a little something about yourself would be great. How your day has been, anything you'd like to share, why you've actually I'll be interested to know why you've chosen to join. So today is going to be a very interesting one. I'm going to put my take or my spin on the subject of R. Kelly. R. Kelly's child abuse case that has been trending online this week, last week, and sometimes I'm very reluctant to jump on trending topics because I know when it's trending, everyone wants to have a say about it, and sometimes I'll try to steer away from that because we don't always know the full truth, and sometimes it's not just about giving an opinion about something that's trending to get likes or views or anything like that, because we're dealing with real life issues, we're dealing with real life people, and sometimes some of our opinions doesn't necessarily help. So the question is, why am I giving my opinion on this? Well, I'm only doing it because I feel very pressed. I'm trying to avoid it, but I feel at the same time I have an obligation to speak on a subject that moves me, or on a subject that I feel deep within that I should share. I should say something about it. So there's no insulting here, guys, please. And this is not a right or wrong platform or forum. We're not here to say what is right or wrong. We are just going to discuss. The word there is discuss. We're going to share, and then we're going to hopefully learn from it and see how together we can move our community forward, we can move our families forward, we can make, our lives and the world a better place. So please be open and transparent with me, and don't leave me hanging, guys. I need everyone's contribution. Thank you so much for joining. Hello, Kwame Obosei, Emmanuel, hey. And Nana Kwame Jamira, thank you guys so much for joining. Please help me by sharing, by inviting friends to also join. So we are going to be talking about a very popular trending topic online this week and last week, I believe, and that is on the R. Kelly docuseries, R. Kelly series, on child abuse, child molestation that is going all around. And I think what really prompted and really just pushed me to want to say something about it is I saw 2 videos on Instagram from Jada Pinkett Smith and also a gentleman called Derek Jackson. I listened to, their view on it or their expression on it, and I was a bit, I don't know, I just saw it from a different angle. So I want to have my opinion from that side, not necessarily the conventional way, because I'm always glued to want to know the underlying cause of something before I try to make the judgment. Because if the fruit from the tree doesn't taste nice, it's not necessarily the fault of the fruit, but probably whatever has been fed to the fruit from the root. So I always want to look at the root cause, because I believe that, when we were all born, no one was born a sex addict, an alcoholic, a drug addict, an abuser, or any of these negative things. None of us came into this world with that label. So if we came into the world with a blank slate, and then some way, somehow, we've turned out wrong, then we need to look at the products or the elements, the components, the ingredients that were put into the forming of the making. So for example, if you're cooking, if if you make jollof rice, I'm only talking about jollof rice because I make it over the weekend. If you make jollof rice and then when you finish and it doesn't taste good, if you made your soup that you thought was going to be amazing, you finished and you tasted it and it wasn't great, it's not the actual soup that is in front of you. It's probably the ingredients, the putting together of the soup, everything that went into the end product. So it's not the problem is not the actual end product, it's everything leading up to that point that we need to look at. Did you put, did you buy the right ingredients in the first place? Did you put the right amount of water, salt, sugar, whatever it is? Did you put all those things together well for it not to have turned out right? And if you did and it didn't turn out right, then we need to look at the end result, the product. However, before we look at the product, we need to look at the ingredients, the processes in place before the end product. So bringing that back to our Kelly, or the subject of child molestation, child abuse. Today, I spend a bit of time at work looking into a few topics on child abuse. I was looking at, do children, victims of child abuse, do they turn up to be abusers themselves when they are older? I was looking at, what percentage of children abused, and all these different, and I was amazed and also quite saddened by some of the findings. And I'm going to, hopefully, I probably might find myself talking more from the Black community or angle because I can relate more, I come from there, so it's easier for me to talk from either experience or close-knit experience that I may know about and stuff like that. So spare me if you do hear me relating more to the Black community or dark skin community or anything like that. Hopefully the subject, I believe that we would all benefit, we'll all learn something from it, but it's easier for me to talk from that angle because that's where my root is. So bear with me, and thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate your time, guys. I would really need all of us to contribute because I don't just want to be a teacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm here for us to discuss, and we cannot have a discussion if it's only me doing the talking. So I want us to feel free and allow ourselves to be here to serve, because maybe some way, somehow, our experience, our knowledge, our expertise, may benefit someone else that is tuned in today or maybe at a later case. So please do allow yourself to possibly be vulnerable if it will help another person, if it will serve somebody else, and hopefully that's what I'll try to do. So please, when you come on, say hello to me. Let me know you all. Let me know how your day has been, and of course, help by sharing. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay. Wow, thank you so much, Dawn. That is a very great point. So Dawn is saying, you're talking about intergenerational download of trauma being the cause. Most abusers are victims, but most victims are not abusers. And that is very, very, very true, because sometimes it's very easier for us to stigmatize people. I don't in any case feel that, or I don't think it will be right for me or for anyone to assume for a fact that people that are abused as children, or children that experience any form of abuse, especially domestic abuse and sexual abuse, grow up to be abusers themselves. That is not the case for all stories. However, I do personally believe, and also from some of the research I did today, I do believe that there's a higher tendency of that repeating itself, of victims of child abuse becoming abusers themselves later on in life. But It's not every story. It's not, guys, it's not every story, but there's a higher risk towards that. So we will look at that and then hopefully see what we can all do in our communities, in our homes, in our everyday life to help prevent such occurrences from happening in our communities, in our homes, and in our families. And hopefully by that, we may avoid cases like R. Kelly and all the stuff. So this afternoon I was hanging around on Instagram, and I came across a video by R. Kelly's brother. Sorry, I didn't catch his name. I think it's a cat. I should have put his name down. But yeah, so there was a little short clip of him on Instagram, and he was talking, "Hello, Shara, how you doing? Are you still in Ghana? Hey, Uncle Sammy, hello, Andrew. Everyone, thank you so much for joining." Yeah, so he was talking about sharing about how he and R. Kelly were abused as children. So he recalls being sexually abused around the age of 6 years, 6 years by, oh God, this is very hard, by their big sister. So their big sister, that was about 16 years old, a big sister abusing their younger brother or younger brothers who were about 6 or probably younger. So when I came across that video, when I watched video, it just prompted me to start thinking about what I was saying again, because I really truly don't believe that most of the people that act in such ways is usually, I don't believe is normal, or we all know it's not normal. However, I feel strongly and deeply that a lot of it could somehow be tied into their childhood, their experience as a child. So I was looking at some statistics on Office for National Statistics, and they stated that 1 in 5 adults between the age of 16 and 59, an estimate of 6.2 million people, had experienced some form of abuse as a child. That is a significant number of children that have experienced abuse. And abuse could be in the form of psychological or physical abuse, sexual assault, or witnessing domestic abuse. And that is 6.2 million. Over 6.2 million people have experienced some form of abuse as a child. And this goes back, this is about 2013 statistics. So I'm sure this figure is higher. And this is for UK. So if we look at the world at large, I can't even imagine what that number could be. 1 in every 5 adults has experienced some kind of child abuse. And then, interestingly, most of these children that have experienced some form of abuse as a child went on to experience domestic abuse as adults. And we're looking at 51% of children that experience some form of abuse as children do experience domestic abuse when they are adults. That is literally 51%. That's almost like 1 in every 2. Half of children that experience some form of abuse in their childhood will grow up and experience domestic abuse. guys, this is a really big problem, issue in the community, and I think that's probably why I was really drawn to speak about it, because I just saw it as something that is beyond R. Kelly. This problem has been in the news limelight for years, years, and I think that I feel, guys, don't shoot me here, don't don't shoot me, but to a degree, I feel a bit sad and also sorry for R. Kelly, because again, it's like the Bill Clinton story, because he's up there, so he did something that a lot of people are doing, and whoa, everyone jumped on him. And I think that is probably the same situation with R. Kelly. And we've had Bill Cosby. I actually Googled famous child abusers, and the list goes on, famous child abusers: Woody Allen, Bill Cosby, Bryan Singer, Gary Glitter, Roman Polanski. The list goes on and on and on and on. But I feel sometimes as well, I don't know about you guys, please do let me know. As Black people, are we too quick to condemn? Are we too quick to jump on? Are we too quick to jump on? I'm not saying, I'm not condoning the act, but are we just too quick? Because Jada Pinkett's video on Instagram, she expressed her disgust at the fact that R. Kelly's songs on the iTunes or Spotify had just shot up. The ratings had just gone up. And she's amazed at the fact that this guy is in the limelight for such indecency act, and yet it seems like his record sales are just, they've just gone up, they've spiked up, and she doesn't understand why. And so I was wondering, is there a possibility, because sometimes the people behind the media, sometimes we have to question them, sometimes, or should I say the motive behind the people behind the media, sometimes it's not necessarily as it is, as we see it. Because, amazingly, maybe it's not even about R. Kelly, like how sometimes we get, maybe, if a celebrity, if a musician wants to bring, I see this a lot in the African community, let's say, I would say in my Ghanaian community, I see it a lot, where when an artist and when a musician wants to bring a song out or single out or something like that, they will stage some kind of news, they'll stage some story that will go viral, that will trend, so that they are topical, they are on everyone's lips, so that when they do release their song, they'll get the views and the hits and the likes and all of that. And sometimes I feel, because right now I'm asking myself, so if R. Kelly's songs, if the sales of R. Kelly's songs have just spiked up, who are getting those monies? This is just a question I'm just throwing out there. Who are getting those monies? The record labels and all these things, the giants. Where is that money going to? And is there any reason why? I mean, even the people that are behind the docuseries, the documentary that was done, the people, was it really to expose this guy as some nasty child abuser? What is the real motive behind it? Is it really to just, finally nail this guy? Or is there another hidden agenda to it? Is there another hidden agenda to it, and R. Kelly happens to just be, let's say, the black sheep? I don't know. That's another question I'm throwing out there for all of us to kind of think about. But then again, interestingly, when I look at R. Kelly's story, I'm thinking, wait, hold on. But this is a very, very common story that we know in our communities. So let's go back to where, let me go back home, because that's where I can relate and I can easily talk from there. Back home in Africa, in Ghana, other African countries, we do know of an uncle, an auntie, a family friend. We do know someone that molests children. We do know a family friend, an uncle that comes to the house, that molests. Some of us have been at the mercy of such people. We've been victims of such people, an uncle, a family friend, an auntie, or whatever that has, that turns up to the house, and they'll end up abusing the little boys or the little girl in the house. They come in there, they lure them with sweets. I think this story trended, I think, say last year or 2 years ago. I remember, because there was a little, was it a school teacher or something like that had sexual assault, that sexually assaulted or had some sexual thing with one of the students, and then this thing went viral and everyone was talking about it. It's happening in schools. Sometimes some of these students has to be involved sexually with their teachers in order to pass their exams, or in order to get admitted into the school. We have heard so many stories of even even people in the movie industry, having to sexually get involved with directors and producers before they'll give them a role. We have heard of stories of should I go there? We've heard of stories of ministers. Mate, where I'm coming from, there are so many stories of ministers. I mean, when you go on Instagram and you see a lot of these young ladies that are trending as slay queens. I mean, last year we had one of the incidents of the CNN news coverage of this lady from Ghana, Moisha Bodong, that had a CNN documentary or interview with what's the lady's name? I remember it. But yeah, she was talking about having to sell her body in order to make living, like, sleeping with married men and stuff like that in order to make living, because the living experience or the lifestyle in Ghana is just too expensive, and she's not the only person. There are so many examples of so many cases of such acts, ministers, a lot of people in politics back home, a lot of politicians. This is what they do. I've been at a place where I have witnessed a politician sending their driver to go pick up a school girl. And this thing goes on and on and on. And I think that it's R. Kelly might be an example because of the position or because of his role in society, because he's famous. But I think he's a small percent of the bigger picture. This thing is so big. It's in our churches. We've heard so many stories, incidences of children, of priests and pastors and ministers abusing children in the church. I think 2 or 3 years ago, there was a documentary on Vatican where a lot of these boys that serve in the church in what do you call it, in Rome, in the Vatican, that are molested and are abused. There's so many incidences of this that is going on literally every single day, and we know about it, we've heard about it, we know someone that has personally experienced that. we may be victims of such. What are we doing about it? Is my main thing. That what are we doing? Whilst we are all so focused on R. Kelly, because he's famous or anything like that, but what are we doing about it? Because it's a problem that is so much bigger than R. Kelly. It's so much bigger than R. Kelly, and this is a massive problem in our community. And I don't think that a lot has been done about it. A lot of the time, you can't even speak about it. I'm talking from my own personal experience. I never spoke about it because you may get beaten up. You will end up being the bad person. So in order not to be tarnished or to be labeled or anything, you just kept quiet. And sometimes the victim doesn't experience the actual, what's the word? Is it repercussion? But sometimes the damage of that act or the experience is not evident. So there was a story in the Guardian that it was about breaking the cycle of abuse. This was somewhere around 2013. And it stated, I'm just quoting, "It's the very start of a child's life that matters most. By the age of 3, nurses can identify these children will go on some way, somehow abuse." So I learned from personal development that from the age of 0 to 5 years old, in every child's life, from the age of 0 to 5 years old, what the child experiences, what the child goes through, their relationship with their parent, predominantly, the relationship the child will have with their parent will formulate the child's belief. So, and a lot of the time, when we look into some of these cases, majority of the time, such act happen at such an early age, before the child is 10, before the child, literally in the single digits, by 6-year-old, by 7-year-old, this child has been abused. And it's like, at that stage, between 0 and 5, that is when the child's brain, their mind is beginning to form. At that age, the child is like a blank sheet, a canvas, doesn't know right or wrong. They are now coming to learn language, words, and all these things, And if something like that happens to a child, that becomes the foundation on which anything else is going to be built. So sometimes some of these actions or some of these acts happen in such early stages of a child's life that when the child grows up into adulthood, they don't even remember. It's very difficult to trace back and say, maybe because of what happened to me, because of this particular experience, that is what has led to. Sometimes they have to go through therapy, counseling, that has to take them right back into their childhood for them to reconnect. I remember through my own personal development, one of my coaching sessions, we had to go into our childhood, and I had a problem. I couldn't go. It's like I couldn't remember anything beyond the age of about 6 or 7. I couldn't go anywhere further than that. I could remember things when I was about 8 years old, but I couldn't remember much apart from maybe the age of 2 or 3. I only recall just one incident. That's it. but I don't remember anything else. And every time we had to do, we had this meditation thing, this thing that we had to do, exercise that we had to do. And every time I had to, part of the exercise, you had to see yourself as a child and look into the eyes of the baby. It's like you become the baby and you're looking in. So it's you, the adult, looking into like a cot where a baby is lying in there, but that baby in the cot is you. And I just could not envision, I couldn't imagine. So it's like once it get to that part of the meditation, I can't go anywhere beyond that. I cannot see myself as a little baby. And I always had a problem with that. And I don't know why. I cannot remember anything beyond 8 years old. It's like literally when I get there, my mind is just blank. And then I lose concentration. Literally, I will snap out of the meditation. I'll just come out of the thing. And it seems like, I feel like, I don't know if something happened to me. And so I wouldn't want to necessarily relate it to that. But I don't understand why. It's like my mind does not allow me to go beyond the age of 8 years old. It's like when I get there, it feels as if a door that is closed and I'm not allowed to open the door and go behind the door. So anytime I get to that door, my concentration, everything just cuts off, and I just snap out of the meditation. I just snap out of the exercise. I'll fight with myself. I'll lose concentration. I get fidgety and, all of this. And I've just never understood why. And I still don't understand why. Maybe with practice over time, I'll be able to I'll be able to go through that door, But it had been a challenge for me. Again, I recall, this is a personal, oh, wow. Hey, Janet. Hey, nah. I'm Ponsa, Self, Beatrice, Nee, Caroline, Coffee. Guys, wow, amazing. Thank you all so much for joining. So we are talking about the subject of R. Kelly, surviving R. Kelly, that is trending online, my take on it, and also my view that this story, this problem, this issue is far bigger than R. Kelly. It's far bigger than R. Kelly. And, R. Kelly may be the black sheep or the scapegoat at the moment. However, I think that the problem is predominantly, is very real, and it's every day in our community. And I don't think that we should just focus on R. Kelly. I think we should go beyond R. Kelly, and we should see this and see how to deal with this and how to move on as a community from this, because too many people. Now, when I heard R. Kelly's brother saying that they were sexually abused at the age of 6 years old, I began to feel empathy towards R. Kelly. Guys, don't get me wrong. I do not condone what he's done. I do not condone. But I've always felt and I've always believed that something wasn't right somewhere. That for such a person to continuously be involved or be doing such act, something must have happened to this guy. I just didn't know, but I just assumed that something may have happened to this guy at a very early in their childhood. And when I saw a video of his brother on radio being interviewed, where he had to painfully recall their 16-year-old sister sexually abusing them at the age of 6, that connected with me. That I felt, that is it, because that is one of the reasons why a person like that could continuously participate in such act unless he had been damaged himself. He had been a victim himself, and without help and support, he has grown up to become a perpetrator of the same act. So now again, going back, I read something, guys. I was reading something on WebMD, and was on the subject, do sexually abused kids become abusers? This was somewhere in February. They covered it somewhere in February 2003 on the subject, do sexually abused kids become abusers? And this was a very interesting outcome for me, because it says 1 in 10 male victims of child sex abuse went on to abuse children as adults. Guys, 1 in 10. 1 in 10 boys that was abused sexually as a child will grow up and be an abuser as well. 1 in 10. 1 in 10 male children, boys that are sexually abused, will grow up and become abusers themselves. So it's not surprising that R. Kelly has grown up to be an abuser himself. Hearing the revelation from his brother that at the age of 6 years old, they were sexually abused by their 16-year-old sister. Where was the mom? Where was the help? Where was the parent? Who was there for them to tell, for them to confide in? Where was the help? Did they get any counseling? Did they go through any therapy? Because if nothing of such sort happened, this is another victim. So just as we want him to be punished for victimizing people, victimizing all these young girls, this is another boy. This is a boy that was also at the receiving end of the same act. And I will not be surprised. I don't know about his biography, his childhood, apart from what his brother was talking about. But if this happened, I don't know whether it happened once, multiple times. I'm assuming probably multiple times, because this is a family relation. So this is not an outsider that would say maybe came there once and did it. If that is their sister and they live with their sister, I don't know how many times this sexual abuse went on, how many years, guys. So sometimes let's call wrong, but let's not be too judgmental, because we are all, so many of us are a product of so much damage from our childhood, and sometimes without the right help, without the right support, we grow up, and we don't do it deliberately, but we grow up and we tend to be, it's like, for example, a lot of us, we go through some upbringing, and then we promise ourselves, when I'm older, when I have children, I'm going to give my children the best. I'm not going to let them experience anything that I went through. And a lot of the time, it doesn't happen like that. We end up repeating the same mistakes, or repeating the same experience, putting our children through the same experience, the same bad experience that we went through. We end up putting them through the same thing, so much so that sometimes we call it it's like a curse, or a generational curse, or something like that, And I see this thing as the same thing, because if a 6-year-old child, and guys, listen to this finding as well. Just listen to this finding. It says that the risk, so 1 in every 10 male victim of child sex abuse went on to abuse children as adults. The risk is far greater of victimized kids from dysfunctional family. And you know what I find so surprising? That children, boys, that children that abuse, so male figures or young boys, little boys that are abused or that experience sexual abuse from female figures, guys, female figures. So the risk is higher. The risk of victims of child abuse becoming abusers themselves in adulthood, the risk is greater when they come from dysfunctional families, families that have history of violence, families that have experienced maternal neglect, where there's sexual abuse by a female person, and also where there is lack of supervision. So these four factors, these four elements contributes greatly to children abused children becoming abusers. Children that are coming from dysfunctional family, where there is history of violence, where there's maternal neglect, where they've been sexually abused. Amazingly, this finding stated that boys that are sexually abused by female figures end up becoming sexual abusers adulthood. Guys, this is why I saw it different. I couldn't pass so much judgment on R. Kelly, because I felt the problem was deeper. I felt what he's exhibiting, the actual act, was like the icing of the cake, and the problem was far deeper. The problem was far deeper, because now, even talking about this, I'm trying to see if from the little boy R. Kelly, the 6-year-old, the 5-year-old R. Kelly, that was probably constantly being sexually abused by his elder sister, how would he go about telling anyone? And if he did, would anyone believe him? And if he didn't, would he have received any help? And if he didn't receive any help, is it surprising that this little boy has turned up to be a child molester, a child abuser, but famous? Guys, the problem doesn't go away because you grow up, because you got a label, because you are a brand. It's just that it's magnified on an even bigger stage because there was no help available. Parents, when our children tells us these things that they're going through, do we believe them? There are so many families, there are so many homes where for example, women are so desperate to have men in their lives that sometimes some of these men comes into the picture and they abuse the girls, the daughters or the boys. And sometimes these children will tell their mothers, but because the mother wants to hold on to their men, they blame the child or they don't believe the child. So then this child doesn't get help. And when this child doesn't get help, I'm not saying the child will grow up to be an abuser, but there's a high risk. There's a high risk of the child growing up. They might not be an abuser, but that child will be damaged. That child will be damaged. It could manifest in the form of, some might be the same act as well. They may become abusers themselves. Sometimes they'll grow up and they'll get involved in relationships where they get abused. So, no wonder 51% of children that experience some form of abuse, and when they are little children that experience some form of abuse, when they grow up as adults, they end up in being abusive environment. They end up experiencing some form of abuse in their adulthood. And you're looking at a figure of 6.2 million, guys. 6.2 million. Going back, let's take it, let's bring it home. Let's bring it home. Homes where children constantly experience domestic violence, where children constantly experience verbal abuse. A lot of these children, they grow up there and they emulate that, because that is the picture that has been painted to them as the normal when growing up, when their minds were blank, when it was a clean slate, and we were now about to begin writing anything on. That was the picture that was constantly. Let me speak from my experience. I wasn't so young, but at some stage in my childhood, I would say in my teen, I witnessed domestic abuse. I witnessed domestic abuse at home. And because of that, my image of marriage, or my concept of marriage was tainted because of that. Because I didn't understand how two people that are married or that loves themselves can be in such fight and pick up glass bottles, and throw at themselves. I will witness where glass bottles will be flying on the walls and shattering everywhere. And most of the time, I had to run for my life. I had to run out of the place so that I didn't end up getting hurt. So when I experienced that as what marriage was, I didn't want to have anything to do with marriage. I didn't want to have anything to do with marriage. When I experienced, how sometimes the love of parents can become so controlling and so manipulating. Sometimes even the thought of having children scares me, because I feel like, oh my God, I don't want to have a child and then have to control them, have to love them so much to the point that I control them. I manipulatively control them, that the child have to live their life wanting to please me. So because of that, it scares me. It's like, I don't want to have a child. Guys, do you see? And it's amazing that in our day and age, we don't have counselors, we don't have therapists. Every one of us, if it's right for me to say, the majority of us have one way, shape, or form been damaged. We are all damaged goods. But there's no help out there. There are no counselors. There are no therapists. We don't talk about it. Everyone is afraid to talk about their experience. Everyone is afraid to be shamed about their experience. Everyone is afraid to be labeled and tagged. And so we hold on to this and we keep hold of these things. And some of these experiences, guys, it's not looking for you as a child. It's looking for you as the adult, because some of the childhood experience manifests itself, the end product or the results of the experience or the damage of the experience become more evident when you're an adult. And guess what? By then you can't even remember, you can't recall. So you don't know where it's coming from. This is what we are dealing with. I was listening to the TV show, what's called The Real, and obviously, they were also having their view on the R. Kelly story, and I think they said there was a song, I think around the time that his cases started coming up a couple of years ago, he released a song, and we're playing the song, and there was a lyric that was quite interesting, and he said that, how can you judge me when you've never walked in my shoe? So I listened to that and I thought, what could he possibly be talking about? What could he, that line there, how can you judge me when you have not walked in my shoe? What could he mean by that line? Guys, what do we think he meant by that line? Because knowing what I know now, I'm probably reading into that line. How can you judge me when you've never walked in my shoe? How can you judge me when I've been the 6-year-old or the 5-year-old the 5-year-old boy that has been probably consistently sexually abused by my elder sister, and I didn't have a voice to speak? So how can we, guys, again, I am not condoning his act. I am not condoning it in any way, but I feel and I strongly believe that there's an underlying problem. There is something that has driven this old R. Kelly man to behave the way he's behaved, because the little boy R. Kelly has been so damaged and probably never had help and probably could never talk about it. And this little boy has grown up without help and support. And now we are throwing accusations. Now we are calling him all sort of stuff. Now we are ready to crucify him. Why? Because this man, this adult R. Kelly, has molested other children, 13-year-old and 15-year-old and 17-year-old. So now we want justice for these girls, these 17-year-old girls, these 15-year-old girls. Where is justice for the little boy R. Kelly that had been sexually molested, sexually abused by her elder sister who was 16 when he was just about 5 or 6 years old? Where was help for little boy R. Kelly? Guys, this is the problem that we are facing in our society. So sometimes, as much as it's easy for us to, all jump on the bandwagon and throw, have a dig at people, sometimes let's just take a little step back, just a little step back, and then let's begin to question some things, and let's think a little bit deeper than the surface. Think a little bit deeper than the surface, because sometimes the problem is not on the surface. It's at the root that no one can see. And I can bet my life that if R. Kelly was to speak up and talk about his childhood, then maybe, just maybe, little boy R. Kelly also must be screaming for justice. Guys, I don't know, do you guys get where I'm coming from? Talk to me. I need some people. I need you guys to share with me. I don't know, do you guys get where I'm coming from? Do you guys have what is your view on the stuff I'm saying, guys? I want to hear from you guys as well. And thank you everyone that have joined. Thank you guys, but I really want to hear your views. I've been doing a lot of the talking. I really want to hear your view. Is any of you guys watching me? Are you willing enough to be transparent and maybe possibly share if you've been at the receiving end of an abuse? Have you been abused sexually through domestic violence or anything like that? Have you in one way or form been abused as a little girl or boy when you were young? Have you experienced any sort of abuse? Have you gotten help? Could you talk about it? Have you spoken about it? What help have you received? How has that experience molded you into the person that you are today? I would love to, if any of you guys have been there, please, I would love to hear. I would really love to hear your opinion. If you don't mind sharing, call me. I'll try to. Oh, I don't think I have. What do I need to do? I know. I'm Jennifer. Thank you. I'm going to try and see how I can do that. I know that sometimes you can join on the thing, but I don't know if this will allow me to be able to bring you on. or if I'm not doing it properly and anyone knows how, please help me to know how. But I really want us to just allow ourselves to be open and let's be transparent, because again, I really don't think that the problem is R. Kelly. R. Kelly is not the problem. R. Kelly has become the face of the problem. However, in my humble opinion, the problem is far bigger and greater than R. Kelly. And R. Kelly is also someone that possibly should be screaming for justice for him, because the little boy R. Kelly probably didn't get any help and support, which we don't have in our communities, you know. So again, what am I talking about? Everyone knows, have heard in some way, if you've been online on social media this week, last week, you would have heard something about R. Kelly and all these young ladies, girls that he sexually abused, molested, you know, because he was a musician, he was an artist, and he could have whatever he wants. And so now we are screaming justice for these girls. They've done documentaries, you know, we've had celebrities in the entertainment industry having a dig at him and all of that stuff, which is great, because of course he's done something extremely horrible. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, multiple times, and gotten away with it because he can afford the best of lawyers and stuff, legal team. But is it just that? And my people, our Black people, are we too quick? Are we just too quick to shut down, to cut off, and to totally eradicate our own people? Because sometimes, because you know what, I think in a week, you know, whilst I was, you know, roaming around on social media, I think I saw someone saying, you know, someone commenting about Woody Allen that married is it his adopted child or something at the age of 13 or something like that, and Elvis Presley. You know, there's so many famous figures. I'm not saying what they've done is right, but what I'm saying is the way as Black people, sometimes when one of our own gets into trouble, how we come in on the person. We don't even come to protect and look at really look deep into the problem. We join everyone and we say, crucify him. But sometimes the media that is propagating some of these stories, we need to question their motive behind it. Because if R. Kelly is in the limelight, if R. Kelly's sin is in the limelight, and no one wants to buy records, you know, all the Black people are saying that no one should buy his record, no one should listen to his songs again, and all of that stuff. Mate, come on. He didn't just commit the crime. We've been listening to his song. We've loved his music for donkey years when we still probably knew he was guilty for doing what he's doing. Why all of a sudden? Why now? We have enjoyed Bill Cosby for so many years. He's been a pillar in the African homes, communities and stuff. Now he's in the limelight and we say crucify him, put him behind jail, let him die in prison and all of that stuff. Guys, sometimes we need to look a little bit beyond what the media wants us to think, and we need to be able to think for ourselves, reason beyond what the media wants us to think. Because sometimes the people behind these stories, what they want us to think or the way they want us to behave and react is not in solving the problem at all. It's not in solving the problem at all. Because how then is it possible that R. Kelly is in the limelight for such act, and therefore he needs to be convicted, he needs to go to prison and all of that? And guess what? So we bang R. Kelly in prison, and guess what? His record sales shoots up. Who are the people getting the money, guys? I'm just asking. Who are the people behind the scene that is going to be getting this money when this guy is in prison? And also, why now? That documentary series that just come out, why now? Why are those people choosing to speak up now? And not only that, I was listening again, like I said, I was listening to this guy called Derek Jackson on Instagram, and he was saying, wait, hold on. Whilst we are throwing shades at R. Kelly, because let's think about it, guys. Let's think about it. He's an artist. He's famous. He's not going to go out there on the street to go and bring the girls. He's not going to go out there into the crowd at the concert to pull up the girls. So obviously, someone else would have had to have done that. So the people that willingly, knowing what this guy is going to do to these girls, that willingly go out there and pull on the girls, the young girls, and bring them in to the hotel or bus or wherever it is for him to be able to have his way with them, the girls. What happens to those people? Because R. Kelly couldn't have gone out himself to get the girls. So the people that brought the girls to him for him to do what he did, what happens to those people? I mean, you know, when you're trying someone for murder and stuff like that, you know, you do have those that commit the murder, those that witnessed the murder and didn't do anything about it or anything like that. They got different. What happens to those people? The guy, that guy that went down there and pulled on that young girl, that 15-year-old, lured him and took her and took her to R. Kelly's room so that he will have his way with the girl, and then send the girl. What happens to that? Shouldn't that person also be guilty? Shouldn't that person also face, or are we just talking about the actual sexual act? Or is it everything leading to that? Is it everything leading to that? You know, so again, I want us to look at this problem from hindsight. Look at this problem more closer home. The uncle that is abusing children, that is abusing the little girl, the little boy at home that we know of. The auntie, the family friend that always come to the house for a visit, or, you know, the family friend that you take your child to look after your child that is abusing that kid. You know, the many times your children, your girl or your boy has told you that this uncle, I don't like this uncle coming to the house, because she can't really say exactly what the uncle does, but she keeps saying that I don't like this uncle coming to the house. Or anytime she sees the uncle coming to the house, she runs to go and hide. Are we listening? Are we listening to these children, or are we waiting for them to be molested, ignore it, and then once the damage has been done as a child, and now the seed has been planted, and now the seed has grown to become a tree, and now it's bearing fruits, and we can see the fruit, evidence of the fruit, and now we're saying crucify, kill him, put him behind bar. Where is that little boy or girl getting help from? Who is hearing that little boy or girl? Who is hearing them? We may not all have turned out to be abusers, but we so easily could have been. I could have been so easily an abuser, because I experienced that myself. It's just the grace of God. It's just the grace of God. But it may not have manifested through me sexually abusing someone or anything, but it can show up in so many ways, shapes, and forms. You know, that sometimes even in relationship, you don't want to get into relationship, or even if you're in a relationship, you don't want your husband to touch you, you know, or when your husband tries anything, says anything, it reminds you, it takes you back to that experience, and then, you know, you're ready to strike and all of that, which has got nothing to do with what is happening now. It's everything to do with your past. Where is help? Where do we go for help? Who can we speak to? Because this problem, this seed is not going to go away. Are we waiting for us all to turn up to R. Kelly before it starts showing up? Are we waiting for the little boy R. Kelly to grow up so that he can repeat the same mistake, so that now we need to put him behind bars? Jennifer said, people need to know that behind every fire, there is a wood. And which one will use to light a fire? Because there was no help with him. He passed it on. Thank you. That is literally, thank you so much, Jennifer. That's literally my point that I'm trying to make here. I'm not saying in any way that R. Kelly is not guilty for what he's done. I'm not saying that he's not done them. Neither am I saying he's done them. I don't know. I really don't know. But if the said is true, and if what the video, the little short clip I came across on Instagram where his brother was saying that they had been sexually molested, him and R. Kelly were sexually molested at the age of 6 by their elder sister. And this is, if this is a sister, this is someone that you live with, you see, this is not, the person is not going away. You see this person every day. So how often did this go on? How long did this go on? How many years did this go on? And at what point could they speak? Was this the first time the guy is talking about it? And if such seed was sown into these little boys, are we now condemning the reason why they have grown up to be the way they are if they never received any help? Guys, this problem is far bigger than R. Kelly. It's far bigger than R. Kelly. We experience and we see and hear about this every single day in our communities. We know of ministers, politicians, parliamentarians that go send their driver, back home, they send their driver to go and pick up school girls so they can have sexual intercourse with. We know of rich people that would take advantage of girls because they are their mercy for maybe a little change, little boys, little girls for sweets. So these adults will molest them. I think last year I came across a video of a guy in one of the African countries, I forgot. That was just, he has is it HIV or AIDS? And he's just spreading it. He just made up his mind to give it to as many people, as many women as he possibly can. I watched that video and I was very saddened because straight away I was like, no, this is not normal. I just couldn't see how this could be normal. And the first thing I said was, something must have happened to this man as a boy. Something must have happened to this man in his childhood for him to go out there into the community fully knowing that he's a carrier of HIV or AIDS and willingly spread it. He raped so many women. He's known for it in the community and you can't avoid it. Literally, when he gets you and he knows what he's doing is wrong, but he has said to himself that if he's going to die of the disease, then he's going to pull as many people as possible with him to death. And I watched that video and I said, God, no, this cannot be normal. Something must have happened to the little boy. Something must have happened to the little boy. And when they interviewed him, I was waiting and waiting for the interviewer to ask about the boy's childhood. And bang on, the same thing this man is doing was done to him as a little boy. Guys, this problem is far beyond R. Kelly. It's far beyond R. Kelly. Listen, when we are little children, when you have parents, when you got children, and sometimes the enemy is so wicked. Sometimes the enemy will target us at such an early age when we are so innocent, when we don't even have a voice, when we're not even in a position to be able to put words to what we are saying or how we want to express it. He will cause such a damage. He will plant such a seed in our lives and he will patiently wait. He would patiently wait and water the seed, knowing fully well that one day this seed is going to become a giant tree and bear fruits. Parents, how are we protecting our children? Nowadays, because of the living of life, we are so busy because we know there's so much demand, there's so many things, so we are so busy working to provide for the family. And sometimes we take our children to friends' house, we have sleepovers, and can we really trust the people that we are leaving our little girls and boys with? When our little boys and girls, when their attitude changes, can we even detect it? Do we know? Do we see it? Do we see it? I was watching this amazing woman that I follow, it's my role model, Iyanla Van Zandt, and she does Iyanla Fix My Life, and almost 100% of the time that he's dealt with families and people, and wherever the challenge is, every single time he's delved into their childhood, something happened. Something happened in their childhood that had not been dealt with. That had not been dealt with. And society is at the receiving end. Society is having to bite into the fruits of this tree, which seed was so nasty. This tree, which seed should never have been planted, but it has. So whilst we are so eager and whilst we are so quick to beat down the fruit, we are so quick to judge the fruit. Whilst we are so quick to destroy the fruit, perhaps let's slow it down a little bit. Let's look at the tree and let's go into the roots. Because any house, the strength of a house is not in the body of the house, is not in the beauty, the decor of the house, or the things that are within the house. Is the foundation. Is the foundation. All of us, in one way, shape, or form, are who we are because of the foundation we had. The upbringing, the training, all of that, it has molded us. That's what we have built our livelihood on. So if the foundation is not right, if the foundation is not right, if the seed that has gone into the ground of that little kid's life is wrong, guys, you cannot plant an apple seed and expect an orange to come out of it. If the seed that has gone into the ground of that little boy, that little girl, if it's wrong, guys, there is, and without the right help and support, there is no way that child is going to grow up to be normal. It's only the grace of God that sometimes will make the difference. But this child, one way, will be damaged. This child, one way, will be damaged. And we are all, if we would all be honest, we have our own personal stories around that. Jennifer, if you're still watching, please ping me your number, inbox me your number, and I'll call you after the live and we'll speak. We are all a product of a seed that has been planted in our lives at such a young age that is bearing fruits that we don't like. That when we bite into the fruit, we don't want the taste, we don't want the fruit, we don't want to have anything to do with the fruit. The people around the society don't want the fruit, but we can't help it. There's nothing that we can do, because in our African community, they say when the tree is bending, you can straighten it, right? But if you allow the tree to fully grow or bend or break, there's nothing you can do, right? So whilst it hasn't become a fully grown tree yet, do we have enough support in our communities? Do we have enough counselors? Do we have enough So therapists around in our communities, places to go to, people we can speak, we can confide in. Are we taking enough, giving enough attention to our children? Are we seeing change in character? I was recently watching Inyala Fix My Life, and there was this little girl that had such a problem with the mom, and Inyala had a personal, conversation with the child, because she wanted to understand what was the driving force behind how this young woman has led her life. And amazingly, she said she was abused by a family member, I think at the age of either 8 or 10. And then Inyala asked the mom, at what age did she begin to see that her daughter character, her behavior, and everything had changed? Like, she had become so routed and everything, uncontrollable. At what age did she begin to realize her daughter behavior and everything had changed? And she recalls the age that she believes her daughter's attitude and everything had changed. And amazingly, it was at the same age that this girl had been sexually abused. It was at the same age that this girl had been sexually abused. You see? So, guys, again, I'm not saying what R. Kelly has done is right. Yes, let the law have its course. However, sometimes we need to be a little empathetic, because a lot of the people that commit such crimes, a lot of these problems in our communities is as a result of some of these people experiencing it themselves, except there was no help. They've never received any help. They've probably never spoken to anyone about it. I remember, I think last year, I had an encounter where I had to go into my past, and I went as far back as I could remember, and I had to painfully face, for the first time, I had to really speak about or admit that I was sexually abused. And I never ever spoken about it to anybody. And for me, it didn't seem like it's a problem. But something happened and I had to go back. I linked it because it caused a reaction, and I linked it. I was trying to understand where this was coming from, and having the time to sit down and really think and go back, I was forced to open the skeleton and come up with it and face the demon of being sexually abused at a very young age. And I think the other side of it was I didn't even know how to feel about that whole thing, that whole experience, because I know it's wrong. However, at the same time as well, I was thinking, but sometimes I took myself there. But then again, it was because I was looking for sweets. Because I didn't grow up with my parents. I grew up in a community house. I was raised by my grandma, and she did amazing. She did amazingly well. There was a whole community, a whole lot of us. We grew up in a compound house, so there was so many cousins and all of that around me. And sometimes I'll get away because there were so many of us and there was so little resources. And sometimes I love my sweets and all of these things. And looking back, I think I probably recollected because of the incident that had happened that was trending online, that I had to connect. I had to really face my own demon and admit that, you know what, I'm also one of them. And why this adult that knew fully well what they were doing and knowing it was wrong and taking advantage of me. Why? Because the little Belinda wants sweets. So they will lure me with sweets. And so for me, I felt like because I wanted sweets and I went to get sweets, so I felt a degree of guilt in the sense that I took myself there. But that little girl, what does she know? I don't know how old I was. And it probably went on for years, for a couple of years. And I didn't tell anyone about it. But again, I could so easily have turned out to be R. Kelly. It's just the grace of God, guys. And this is not just my story. There are so many of you listening to me that have personally experienced that. You know, that when you grow up, you know, back home, we tend to grow up in a family compound, and you have cousins and you have uncles and all these people, family friends that will come around, that will finger you as little girls. And, you know, sometimes these grown-up adults, uncles that will let you sit on their lap, and then, you know, they'll do all these sexual things with you, and you can't tell anybody, because who will believe you, first of all? And a lot of the time, if you told, you got beaten for it, so you shut up. And in my case, I never told anyone. I didn't tell anyone, and I kept it for how many years? Over 30 years, before I had to connect with my own past and speak up for the first time about it. So can you guys see how I could have so easily become another R. Kelly? Because I couldn't talk about it. So there was no help. I couldn't go for help. There was no help. There was no support. So how then do I deal with such a problem? So I'm saying again, guys, let's exercise some sort of empathy, a little bit of mercy. Let's not be too quick to condemn, because a lot of the time, so many of us have been so damaged by our past. We've been so damaged in our childhood that we haven't spoken about it. We are not able to speak about it. We're so ashamed of it. We've not received the help and the support that we need in order to be able to move on from that. And as a result of that, that damage in our adulthood is now becoming evident. And when it becomes evident and we are so quick to tell the law, the courts to condemn us, we are so quick to say to the court, get rid of this man, put him behind bar, because he's raped these people, because he's molested this girl, because he's done this to these people, and all of that stuff. Yes, I get it. Yes, that is despicable. Yes, that is wrong. But here's my case, guys. Where was the help and the support for little R. Kelly? Little R. Kelly that had to live in the same house with a big sister that is supposed to love and protect and watch out for him. But this is the same person that was sexually abusing little R. Kelly. Where was help? Where was support? Was he even able to tell any adult? If he did, what help did he get? Was there any help for him? And if there wasn't, are we surprised that this little boy has turned out to be that nasty? And if we are screaming out justice for these young girls and young ladies, then little R. Kelly needs justice. Little R. Kelly needs justice. And this goes for every single one of us, because this is such a big problem in our community. We know about it. We know a friend, we know a family member, a relation, our parents. Sometimes our parents have even experienced that. We know it's so common in our community, especially in our African community. It's so in our Black community. This problem is so big there. There are too many uncles, too many aunties, too many family friends, too many friends that are coming around, that are molesting, that are abusing our children, these young girls and these young boys, and there's not enough support and there's not enough help. We can't talk about it. We don't have anyone to go to. So when that seed has been planted in the little boy or girl's life, and no help or support has been made available to try and deal with the aftermath, then such a person can easily turn out to be an R. Kelly. And if that's the case, if that is the case, then let's not just point a finger at R. Kelly. We are all at fault. We are all at fault, because why can't our children speak up when such things happen to them? And those that speak up, what help do we have in our communities? What help do we have out there to help such people that experience this, so that they don't become the perpetrators of such acts? How can we minimize? How can we protect? How can we protect? How can we protect? How can these young boys and girls have a voice? Who will hear their voice? Who is listening to their voice? Parents, if you're listening to me, are you in touch with your children, so that if any such thing should happen to them, even if they don't speak up, you'll be able to pick from their change of attitude, the change of character, because they may not turn out. Guys, believe me that things like this that happen a lot of the time, these children, when they grow up, the damage becomes evident. It will show up. It will show up. They might not be sexual abusers themselves, but it will show up in one shape or, sometimes it will show up where they become very violent. They're just violent for no reason, they're just violent for no reason. They're too outspoken. They seek for too much attention, Sometimes when I'm on Instagram and I'm looking at a lot of these young ladies that call themselves slave queens, and I'm looking at a lot of these young ladies that are out there, they're flaunting, they're shaking their butt and all these things. I look at that and my heart bleeds, because the first thing I say to myself is, there's a problem at home, or something has happened to this young girl in their childhood, because it's not normal. It's not normal. Too much attention seeking. It's not normal. Something has happened to the little girl. The little girl needs validation. Where is daddy to give the little girl validation? Because little Belinda didn't get validation as a child. Thanks to social media, she can get all the validation she needs, except it's negative. And she'll do anything for it. So guys, the problem is far deeper than R. Kelly. The problem is far deeper than R. Kelly. So whilst we are pointing a finger at him, I really want us to take time and look very close. Look very close. From your own personal experience. If you're watching me and you've been sexually molested, abused, sexually, or you've experienced any form of abuse, whether domestic violence, verbal abuse, any form of abuse, were you able to tell someone? And if you did, what help and support did you get? Could you not tell anyone? And why was that? Growing up, how has that affected you? Or did it affect you? How have you dealt with? Have you sought for help? What is the help out there? That is where I want to take this whole subject on R. Kelly from. That is my view or my take on it. I think that as a people, as a community, especially Black community, Black people, African people, we are too quick. We are too quick to crucify our own. Yes, the act is wrong, but let's not just look at the act. Let's look beyond the act. What has driven such a person to be able to fully knowing that when he's caught, when he's found out, everything he stands for, everything he's built, or his whole music, everything about him is going to collapse, is going down, and yet he consistently has carried on that act? What would drive such action? What is underneath? What foundation did this person get that has led him to behave in the way that he's behaving as an adult? And of course, yes, we are all responsible for our own action. I totally understand that. However, when the wrong seed has been planted in the ground and it has been watered, when that seed becomes a tree and it bears fruit, don't expect the fruit to be right. Hi, DJ Francis. Hi, Esther. Hi, Christine, Dan, Nana, oh my God, guys, I've been so busy talking. I haven't even looked at it. Thank you, everyone that has tuned in, that has joined. And please feel free to share, to really share. I want to know other people's perspective on that whole R. Kelly case. That whole R. Kelly case. What do you think about the R. Kelly case? What is your view on it? Yeah. So I just want us to exercise a little bit of mercy, even when we don't think the person deserves it. Because sometimes when you look beyond the surface and you go down, you'll be amazed that sometimes some of these actions is a cry for help. Sometimes some of these actions is a cry for help. Because I'm sure until this happened and until this came out into the limelight, that now his brother has had to come out and speak and voice out to let the world know they had been sexually abused. So can you imagine if this had not come out? Now, how many more of us have experienced, have gone through such trauma, and we are still silent about it? We might not be in the limelight, we may not be famous, we may not be known by anyone, but the damage has been done. The problem is still there. Some of us, because of this, because of the experience, because of the trauma, we've never been able to hold any relationship. Some of us, because of the trauma, we've always attracted abusive relationship. Some of us, because of the trauma, we are encountering similar experiences even in our adulthood. Some of us, because of the experience, we passed it on to our children. There are some parents that will have, sometimes there are some parents, some women that may be raped, and as a result of the rape, a child will come out and they would abuse that child, because that child constantly is a reminder of that nasty experience that they probably haven't talked about, or if they've talked about it, they've never gotten help for it. Do you see the problem? Do you see why I think that this problem is far bigger than R. Kelly? This is one of those problems in the Black community that we don't want to talk about it. It's like it's a taboo. We know about it. We probably experienced it, but it's a taboo. We don't talk about it. And as long as we are not talking about it so that we can deal with the root cause, then we may have a lot more R. Kellys. And I believe that we do have a lot more R. Kellys. It's just that they are not famous, so we don't get to hear about them. But we do have them. We do have a whole lot of them in our communities. But the thing is, the problem is not going to go away because we don't want to deal with it. The problem is not going to go away because we don't want to talk about it. And there's too many of us that have fallen victims. There are too many of us that have been damaged as a result of our childhood experience that is materializing itself in our adulthood. And society are having to be at the receiving end of it. We need to deal with the problem, with the root cause. We need to provide help. We need to have a lot more counselors in our communities. We need to have a lot more therapy. As a people, as Black people, we don't like to talk about issues. You know what we say? It's our family thing. Every family have got skeletons, so it doesn't go out there. Every family has got problems. You don't go and spill your beans out there. But the truth is, even as a family, yeah, it's fine if you don't want to tell your story out there. That's cool. But are you dealing with it as a family? Because if you're not dealing with it it's about dealing with the problem. It's not necessarily about broadcasting it. Dealing with the problem. Are we dealing with the problem? Or are we covering up the problem? And as long as we're covering up the problem, that problem one day, it's like a girl, a lady that's pregnant. Listen, you're not going to be able to hide that pregnancy for the rest of your life. No, at some point, whether you like it or not, everyone is going to get to know that you're pregnant. That is what I see this as. It's a seed. It's a seed that has got life, that is planted. Is just so sad. That is planted in the grounds of such a little or a young person. And whilst their adulthood has got nothing to do with that, whilst an R. Kelly has worked hard, has sacrificed to be at the place that they are, to now bear or to now eat the bitter fruit from the seed that was planted in his life, that he didn't have a say or didn't have a choice and has probably never gotten help from. And now we want to judge and we want to condemn him. Where was his helpers? Where was his voice? Where was help when he was experiencing the same thing? That is where I'm taking my key from. That is where I'm taking my key from. So let's look in our communities. Let's look within our close-knit families. Because we know the problems are there. We see it and we hear it every day. What can we do? What can we do to solve this problem that is so big and yet so covered in our community? DJ Francis, R. Kelly is just the one in million sexual predators out there. True. Well done for speaking out. Thank you. Did he ask for help? I don't know. But a lot of the time, from my own personal experience, I didn't ask for help. I couldn't ask for help because, one, I didn't understand it for me to ask for help. And if I had asked for help, coming from where I come from in Africa, a lot of the time, I would have gotten beaten for it. I would have been told, Akrabone, wait, and would have been beaten for it. But I only went for sweet. All I wanted was sweet. Everything else that came with it, that was in the exchange. I just wanted sweet. So why did I have to be subjected to such an act? And again, that's what I'm saying. In our communities, it's not. I don't know whether he asked for help or not. And if he did, would anyone have believed him? Now, co-host Francis, if R. Kelly had asked for help, or if R. Kelly had come out and said, my sister is sexually abusing me, would anyone have believed him? That's my question. Would anyone have believed him? If he had come out to say, my sister is abusing me sexually, would we have believed it? Would the parents have believed it? They probably would have wanted to cast the demon out of him. But this was going on under one roof, and that's what I'm saying. Because the fact that this guy can continuously do this, knowing that his whole career, that everything is at stake, and he continuously do it, not just because he knows he can get away with it, but continuously do it. It's like a disease, a terminal disease that you can't get rid of. To continuously do it, there was no way I believed it was normal. I just felt so strongly that something must have happened to this guy in their childhood, because the root had become so deep and so broad that it's like he's willing to risk everything for it. Unconsciously. Why? Because he's a product of the same act. He's a damaged good on a bigger platform. So guys, I just want us to just think to ourselves and allow ourselves to sometimes to really think deep and reason. Hey, Dr. Martin. Oh, lovely to have you on. Please, I would love to hear some of your expertise and your opinion. I'm sure you have heard about R. Kelly's story that is trending on social media this week and last week. And of course, we are all, including myself, everyone is having a dig at it. But I was saying today that I came across a video on Instagram where R. Kelly's brother has opened up to say that himself and R. Kelly were sexually abused. And he recalled maybe around the age of 6, they were being sexually abused by their sister that was 16. And I'm saying that my stand on this is that what R. Kelly has done is wrong. But for some reason, I believe that there was a deeper cause. There was a deeper and underlying experience, something that was driving such a man with such high caliber in society and such a brand to put his whole livelihood at risk, knowing that when he's found guilty, he could lose everything, and to consistently carry on with the act. I just believe that something must have happened to him in his childhood. And that video kind of cemented what I was thinking. So my thought on that, I would love to hear, your view on it, because I was researching and I came across points that stated that children that are abused are at high risk, especially children, or 1 in 10 male children that are abused are at greater risk of becoming sexual abusers, especially also if they were abused by female. So young boys, 1 in 10 young boys that are sexually abused by a female figure will grow up to be a sexual abuser themselves. From your expertise as a doctor, what is your take on that, or on that whole subject? I will absolutely love to hear. Yes, abuse. Yes, I agree. Abused children go on to also abuse. Somewhat true. Not abused children. Some abused children. Please, some abused children, because I was abused, but I've not gone on to become It's just the grace of God. But again, I could so easily have become because I don't know if there was help there or there was no help there, but I never spoke up because I don't know why I didn't speak up. And I don't know if I'd spoken up, what would have happened. And I think at the time, I don't know whether it was right or wrong. I just don't know. All I just wanted was sweet. But again, I was sexually abused, but I didn't turn up to be. So it doesn't quantify all, but there is a greater risk that children that are sexually abused grow up to become abusers themselves. There is some truth in that, because based on some of the things I researched in today, about 51% of children that are abused, that experience some abuse, grew up and either they became abusers or they found themselves in an abusive environment. So they then experience abuse in their adulthood. Oh my God. Yeah. Guys, this problem, just literally just going back to that, I've just realized, oh my God, this is a trend, this is a pattern. This is like an evil act that becomes a pattern. So it's like I get hurt, I grow up and I hurt another person. Now imagine the person that I hurt, they probably also grow up and hurt another person. Guys, do we see how far this thing goes, or how far the potential of this thing, how far this thing can get? Now, I don't know. I mean, let's look at R. Kelly again. Being abused by his sister. I can bet my life that his sister, if they were to interview his sister probably also got abused. And if they're to interview the person that abused, I will not be surprised that person has also been abused. Guys, do we see the trend? Do we see the pattern? And how far this damage and how much this thing is messing up the lives of people? And some of these people grow up to become prominent people in society, and that's when we get to see the manifest of that damage. A seed that is planted, a damage that is done in the life of an individual at such an early age, and yet the result of that damage is manifest. It will materialize after so many years. Guys. Oh my God. It even scares me to think about it. It really scares me to think about it. That this problem, this problem is like, it's an evil problem. It's not a problem that we should entertain at all, because it doesn't seek for just one person. So if it doesn't seek for just one person, is the recurring of the problem. It goes on and on and on and on. And it's like, at what point? I mean, I'm even thinking about some of these victims of R. Kelly. Have any of them gone on to do the same thing to other people? We don't know, but it's a possibility. And how far can the branches of this tree, or the fruits, how wide can the fruits from this tree, how far can the fruit go? How much damage can this act, how much damage or how much effect can it have on people? And do we wait for the person to come into their prominence, for the problem to now begin to show up, And then we can begin to point finger and we can judge them and we can crucify them. And we want to totally eradicate, take them out of our society because they are poison, because they are of no good. How can we? I would love to hear, if you're watching me, I would love to hear, what can we do as a community, as a people, as a society, as a country, a nation, as a world? What can we do to help, to eliminate, to help negate, to help reduce, if not to get rid of, totally eliminate? What can we do to help prevent or stop these things from happening? Usually within family and close family friends. Where is the love? Yeah. I mean, DJ Francis, let's take it back home. The amount of house helpers back home that ends up getting abused, sexually abused by their masters, this problem is just so deep. I don't want us to just focus on R. Kelly and have a dig at him when we are faced with this problem in our everyday. We are faced with this problem every day. There are way too many R. Kellys. I'm not saying that we should condemn all of them. I'm not saying that we should imprison all of them or free all of them. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we should look to stop this. We should take initiatives and we should begin to put structures in place. Parents should begin to look out for signs in their children when their behavior changes. You know, sometimes in the African homes, we're too quick to shout, to beat the child. But when your child is behaving one way and all of a sudden their whole, it's like they take a 360-degree turnaround. Their behavior, everything just changes. They've now become a problem child in school, everywhere. When you talk to them, they don't listen, they're rude and all of that. When the child's behavior suddenly just changes, don't just straight away have a go at the child. Begin to investigate, because a lot of the time something has happened to that child, and because the child doesn't know how to deal with it, how to receive it, they are rebelling. They are showing it through an act of rebellion because their mind cannot process what has happened to them. So the way they show it is through their behavior. They become bad girls, bad boys, or rude, or their attitude changes. Now again, parents, when your child all of a sudden starts running away from a particular family member that they used to be familiar with, when they now come around and they are running from them, they're going to hide, they don't want to have anything to do with them and all of that. Don't just take it lightly. Look into that. What has happened? Why all of a sudden? We need to allow, or we need to create an environment where our children can freely tell us when something like this happens to them, because obviously by the time they're telling you, it's too late. The seed has been planted. However, we can avoid watering that seed for it to grow. We can stop that seed from growing, so we can provide the child with the help and the support they will need so that they don't become an R. Kelly, so that that seed does not grow and bear nasty fruits for other people in society to be at the receiving end of it. So let's look at all these things in our relationship, couples and stuff like that. Sometimes some of us, you get raped and you experience sexual abuse and you don't tell anyone about it, and you go into marriage with it, and you have problem with your husband or wife. Your husband wants to have sex with you or anything, or they text you and straight away you're about to strike. There's all these things. Why? Let's spend time. Let's be interested in people's childhood, their upbringing, their growing up, their childhood experience. Because if not 100% of the time, 80-90% of the time, our behaviors as adults, especially our malfunctioning behaviors as adults, the root cause goes back into our childhood. And so until we are able to go back into our childhood and relate with that experience and face that experience and deal with it and get the help and the support that we need so that we can overcome that, the problem is not going away. It's just going to keep on showing up in different form and shape. Like they say, it's the same devil in different attire. Today it might come in a dress, tomorrow it might show up in a trouser or bikini, but it's still the same devil we're dealing with. The problem is not going to go away because we don't talk about it, because we don't deal with it. The problem is going to be there, and it's going to keep on showing up for however long, however old you are, until we go into the roots and we deal with the problem from the root. And a lot of this problem is coming from home. I've always preached this. Majority of the problem that we are facing is coming from home. Let's protect our home. Let's support our home. Let's do the best that we can to be each other's keepers. Let's not be so busy getting through life, doing life, that we are not even in touch with our siblings, our children, our family, our spouse, our partners. We don't even see what's going on. We're not seeing the changes. We're not seeing the signs. Let's not be too busy. Parents, let's not be too busy trying to afford a living for our children, that we are leaving them at the hands of predators. We are leaving them at the mercies of predators. We are leaving them at the mercy of abusers. Let's not get too busy, because by the time they grow up, the damage. You don't want your child to grow up to be a president, and while they are at that office, the fruit from that seed that has become a plant begins to show up in society, because then the damage is too great. So let's deal with the seed from the root. Let's deal with it, and let's stop it from growing and germinating, growing to be a tree, and certainly not to bear fruit, because otherwise innocent people end up being affected. Innocent people end up biting into the fruit, and then there's a greater problem. So guys, DJ Francis, in R. Kelly's case, from my understanding, some of the victims took money. Is that Helen? Just wondering, Lady B. Some of the victims took money. Again, I mean, even that, I would say, again, I will go into the roots. So, my point that I said earlier on was, R. Kelly is a star. It's a well-known brand. There's no way R. Kelly could go out there into the crowd to go and pull a girl. There's no way R. Kelly will go out on the street to go and bring a girl, or any of these girls that attended concerts or anything like that. He would have had helpers. There are people from his team, his gang, his troops, that would go and bring on those. So whatever he wanted, they will go and bring it. So again, looking back at sorry to bring this in, but Michael Jackson's case. So Michael Jackson wanted the sleeping tablets or the drugs or whatever, and the doctor was saying that he was asking for it, so he gave it to him. He was asking for it, so he gave it to him again. So now we wanted the doctor to be tried for murder, right? Even though he was doing the same way R. Kelly is asking for it. These people know what he's going to do with these girls. They know it. I'm sure some of them probably have joined in themselves. They knew what he was going to do with these girls. So why were they helping him to be able to achieve such evil act? So there are far too many more people guilty than just R. Kelly. And again, my point, this problem is far bigger than R. Kelly, because there are too many corporates. There are too many corporates involved. Why didn't those people speak up? Those parents that want, I don't know whether they want to leave their fame through their children, or they want their children to be known for having, I don't know, whatever with R. Kelly. And it's not normal. It's not normal. I can bet my life again, if you're to look at those parents, you see they have a problem. They've been damaged. You see, the damage, the results, the product of this damage, guys, how it shows up, how that seed, the fruit that seed shows up bearing. We have no idea. Sometimes it might not turn up as the apple seed that you planted. It might not turn up as an apple. But whatever it turns out, someone in society is going to be a victim. Is going to be a victim. How many more of us do we want to turn up to be victims? How many more victims do we want in our society? How many more damaged goods do we want in our society? You know, some of us are coming from broken homes where we didn't have a father figure or something like that. We've gone on, we've married, and guess what? History has repeated itself. Some of us have come from domestic violence homes, and guess what? We grew up vowing we're never going to, and guess what? History has repeated itself. You know, so this abuse, the word abuse, it manifests itself, and the recurring of it is too great in our communities. And this is a subject that needs to be dealt with, and not the person necessarily, because it's beyond that person. Because now, how do you really judge R. Kelly for these things when he has experienced it? How do you pass guilty plea for him for his action, and the person that did the same thing to him gets away with it? And then if that person is tried as well, the person that probably also did it to that person, how did they get away with it? So guys, we could go on forever about this. We could go on forever about this. But I just want us to really think about the problem. Think deep about the problem, not the person. The person is not the problem. Think deep about the problem. The person is only bringing to the forefront a problem, a stigma in our society that we are silent about, or we don't want to deal with. R. Kelly, I believe, is the face of the problem called abuse. But the problem is still there. The problem has been there before R. Kelly, and most likely the problem is going to be there whether we put R. Kelly in prison or not. How do we deal with the problem in our society so that we don't end up getting more victims, so that we don't end up producing more R. Kellys? What do we need to do in order to get rid or to deal with this problem? What help, what support should we have in place in order to help to limit, if not to eliminate, this problem in our society? Because I strongly believe that this is something that we need to constantly talk about, but not just talk about it, in place that really delve into the problem so that we can come up with solutions that will help eradicate this problem from our society. Because the results or the damage, the implications of this problem as an aftermath, we can't quantify. It's too great. When statistics tells me 1 in 5 adults between the age of 16 to 59 estimates between 16 to 59 have experienced some form of abuse as a child. And this is looking at statistics of 6.2 million people. 6.2 million people. And this is statistics for just UK. Guys, this is just UK. This is not the world. This was just UK. This is Office for National Statistics. I got this from Office of National Statistics, and it's only dealing with UK statistics. So can you imagine America, Africa, the rest of the world, when you quantify it? If the UK is 6.2, guys, can we see how many? That means 1 in every 2 of us, if not actually, probably all of us, everyone have experienced some form of abuse. And if we have, how is that abuse showing up in our adulthood? What dress is that abuse wearing in our adulthood? Have we been able to identify, or are we able to identify how that abuse is showing up in our adulthood? Sometimes when you do things, when you say things, when you behave certain way, or don't behave certain way about some things, and you're asking yourself, why the hell did I do that? Why the hell did I say that? Why the hell did I act like that? And yet you can't even pinpoint why. Or sometimes you behave in certain way, you say certain things in certain way, knowing fully well like that wasn't what I wanted to say, or I don't know why. You know, sometimes you do something like you can't pinpoint, you don't understand why you did it, but you did it anyway, but you don't know why you did it. A lot of them not knowing why you did what you shouldn't have done is coming from our childhood. So you know what? I would love us all, as a takeaway, if you get a chance, just sit down and be honest with yourself. And if you allow yourself to go back into your childhood and take a pen and paper and look at your own life, your own childhood, and be honest with yourself, really be honest with yourself, and try and connect with that, any such experience in your childhood that you went through. Really connect with it, because you have to choose to serve yourself. Because you covering it up, not talking about it, not doing anything about it, the problem doesn't go away. The seed is there and it is getting watered, and at some time in your lifetime it is going to show up. So choose to serve yourself now, whilst you're not known, while it hasn't materialized itself yet. Choose to serve yourself. Give yourself time. Sit down, get a pen and paper, and really be honest with yourself, and go back into your childhood. And if you have experienced any such trauma, any form of abuse in your childhood, and especially up to about the age of 5, or up to before or by 10 years old, if you have experienced any such traumas and incidents, I'm pleading with you, sit down. If it will help, write it out. If it would help, speak it out. If it would help, record yourself. But I really want you to connect. Take yourself back in there. For some of us, sometimes the experience is so bitter and is so bad that you don't want to ever remember it again. But you not wanting to remember it again doesn't mean the problem has gone. It's still there. It's lurking there at the back of your mind. It's there. It's only a matter of time. It's like a ticking bomb. It's only a matter of time. Something is going to happen in your lifetime that will trigger that bomb to blow up. And you don't want it to happen at the wrong place, at the wrong time, or with the wrong people, or wrong environment. So I will plead with all of us that have tuned in right now or will listen later on. Spend some time. Give this as a present to yourself. Spend some time. Reconnect with your childhood. Have you gone through any abusive experience or situation or trauma that you would rather not talk about it, that you have locked it in a cupboard, never to be opened, you've thrown the key away into the sea, never for it to come back. That is not the way to deal with it. I would love for you to choose to serve yourself this day and connect with that experience, because I really believe that our power, we are most powerful when we choose to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a weakness. Vulnerability is power, because it's not everyone that is able to stand in the same place that where they experience the greatest hurt and pain and challenge and find strength. So like what I stand for, finding strength in your story. That thing, it doesn't have to break you. It doesn't have to destroy you. You don't have to become an R. Kelly for it to expose itself and damage the years. Can you imagine this little boy that has been so damaged? And I don't know how he managed. I don't know how a boy at that age sexually abused by his big sister that's supposed to protect him. And I don't know how long this abuse went on for. And I cannot even imagine how this guy has been able, in spite of all of that, have been able to get to where he is in life, to become so successful. Life can be so cruel to people, that this guy has gone through such an experience and he still made it. He still made it. And he's become such a world brand. He's become such a world brand. And for it to begin to show up on such a stage, after all the sacrifice, probably after all the pain, and I don't know what it took him, the sleepless nights for him to build the career that he's got, to build the life that he's got, and now he's got it, for the whole thing to begin to probably start crashing because someone damaged him. And as a result of that damage, he is damaging other people as well, guys. So please, I'm begging you, spend time and choose to serve yourself by being honest with yourself, and go there. Choose to go there, however painful it is, however hurtful it is. Choose to go there. Stand in that experience. Connect with that experience, because your power lies in that very place. So that seed that has been planted, or that seed that was planted in your life at such an early age, will not choose to come and show up when you have sacrificed. When you have sacrificed to become the person that you become later on, and for it to begin to show up. When you have toiled, when you have suffered, when you have sacrificed to build your life, to make a legacy, to build your, whatever you've got. No one deserves not to enjoy it. You don't deserve not to enjoy it. And so for the sake of that, choose to serve yourself, connect with that experience, and then choose to forgive yourself, not as the adult that you are now, but the little girl, the little boy that you were not at fault. It wasn't your fault. You didn't choose that. But choose to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Tell yourself it wasn't your fault. You didn't know better. You didn't know it. Tell yourself it wasn't your fault. Forgive yourself, and forgive the person that was responsible. Forgive the people that were responsible, the parents, the family, the friends that were not there to help, to support you. Forgive them. And then please seek for help. Please seek for help, because if you don't deal with the problem now, it doesn't mean the seed is not in the ground. And as long as the seed is in the ground and is being watered, it is going to grow to be a tree. And that tree is going to bear fruit. And the fruit, innocent people could bite into that fruit, and then the problem continues. So choose to allow the problem to stop with you. So whatever you can do to stop it with you, so that you don't become a carrier of it, stop it with you by choosing to connect with your past. Go there, open that door, find that key, open that door, get that skeleton out, deal with it, face the demon, deal with it. Because you will come out, trust me, you may cry, you may scream, you may get very angry, mad at people. It's fine. Choose to do that. Be honest and sincere with yourself. Because when you come out of that, you will see how strong you will feel. And you see how empowered you become. And then, where possible, choose to get help. Go for counseling. Go for therapy sessions. Find someone, if there's anyone, a confidant, someone that you can confide in. Speak up. Let's cut it from the roots. Let's not allow it to become a tree and bear fruit. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I hope I've served, and this was just my take on R. Kelly's story, surviving R. Kelly, the rape and the sexual abuse that is trending online. I hope I have served, and again, it wasn't a right or wrong. Thank you to everyone that tuned in, that joined. It's been amazing. Thank you for those that contributed, that shared your own that shared your own opinion and that contributed to the subject. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much, and hopefully I will be back here again. I don't know what subject, but again, I don't like to speak on everything that's trending, but if I'm moved, if I feel moved to speak on a subject that may be trending, I'll be back here. If not, I'll be back here with my own subject that I feel to come and speak about. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Janice, Aj, DJ Francis. Oh my God, the list goes on and on. I will try and catch up with everyone and respond to every comment. So guys, if you just joined, go back and listen from the beginning, and please feel free, let me share your opinion, share your view on it. And for some of you, if you want someone to talk to, feel free. If you need a confidant, feel free. If you need help, direction, feel free. You can inbox me, you can message me. I've been here, I've shared my own sexual abuse experience. It doesn't tarnish you in anything. It doesn't in any way tag you, label you in any way. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore, because I am stronger and I'm a better person irrespective of that. And so I want us all to choose to serve ourselves. We grow together, we learn together, and we're better together. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, and the rest of the week, have a great one. Thank you, guys, and I will be here again very soon. Good evening and good night. Take care, everyone. Bye.